Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is your host, Vivian Esti Guzman, and welcome to My Spiritual Money RX. Welcome to the show today, and it is definitely about your prosperity key. So, we know that you are where you are in life as far as your money is concerned. And throughout the different shows that we have hosted in the past, we talk about money as energy. And we also know that money is in all the different areas of our lives, right? It is in our physical plane. So we usually have money to spend for different things in life, right? It could be for food, clothing, or shelter. And we also know it's in the emotional plane because when we like a certain person, we usually conduct business with them. And if we don't like a certain person or business, then we actually give our money away to somebody else or something else, right? We also talk about money as part of relationships. If you look at this, your relationship with money has a lot to do with your relationship also with the most important people in your life. It could be your family, it could be society, right? So it is involved in a lot of the relationships that we have, good or bad. And it's also in the spiritual field. So money is in all our energies. I mean, if you think about if you go to church, if you're involved in a religious organization, or even if you are involved with any kind of spiritual discipline whatsoever, there's an exchange of something, right, in that plane. So, in other words, money is in all of our day-to-day living. So when we talk about prosperity key, this is a specific term that they use in human design. So our segment today is all about human design. So I'm going to share with you just a little bit of what is that. So you have seen this in the past, and if it's the first time you're tuning into this show, welcome. And I have shown you this particular chart, and this is the human design chart. This is actually the chart of Albert Einstein. And then you're going to see two columns, right? So you see these different shapes like triangles and also squares, right? And even the diamond shape in the middle. So I'm not going to go over all of that. You can definitely go to humandesignamerica.com or jovianarchive.com. If you put in your information, a chart will be populated just like this regarding you. Okay, so it is specific for your own human design reading. On the right side of the chart, you're going to see your personality, which is basically conscious. This is how people look at you. This is how people perceive you. And then on the left side, you're going to see the different symbols, right? And there's like symbols of the sun, the earth, the moon, and all the different planets. Design is unconscious. And this is what we're here to find out more about who we are. And when you start digging into the human design, you'll notice that you won't know everything about yourself all at once because it is like an experiment. It is like you truly knowing who you are inside and out. So please don't get frustrated if you look at it and you don't understand a thing about it. That's perfect. It's perfectly normal. Okay. Because if you're here to discover who you truly are, it takes a good 3 years. Some people say 7 years for you to really discover yourself. Why is that? Because we were born in this world and we have a set of family, right? And we have family traditions and culture and religion and the things we do in our family. And because we grew up like that, unfortunately, the conditioning happens throughout those years as well. So when you look at yourself, and sometimes, things come up for you, right? Like You wish you were a certain person, but then somehow you're not at this time. We have our goals when it comes to money, to our health, and to our relationships. And some of the things that happen, for example, if there's a sickness or an illness that comes to you, or it's affecting you or your family, we don't quite understand at times, like, why is that happening, right? And through the challenges that we encounter, we somehow find more ways to solve that particular challenge, right? And that's a good thing, right? That's how we learn about ourselves and how we interact with other people. So I'm going to show again the chart. So when you see a white piece of the chart, like the triangles, for example, on top of his head, and even the one below that, right? The white, they're actually you don't carry the energy there, so it becomes like you become you absorb the energy of other people around you if they have colors in those shapes. And the ones that have colors, you can see the brown, the red, the yellow, right? You're the one, think of yourself as a lighthouse in those departments, and you are sharing the energy that you have with other people. So no two people are alike, especially like you're thinking, how about the twins and the triplets? You're never going to have the same design because you were born at different times of the day, right? So what I want you to understand is basically today is your personality key. So if you look on the right side of this chart, again, you look at yours through humandesignamerica.com. You can print it. It takes a few seconds and it's free, or jovianarchive.com. If I go down all the way this chart, you're going to see the number 4 looking symbol on the right. Okay, it's about it's the last third of the chart, right? There's a number 4 sign, and with this particular one, it says 30.4. So this is exactly what we're going to be discussing today. All right. So now let me share with you, what does that mean? You're like, what is a prosperity key, right? That actually is your personality Jupiter. And we know that Jupiter is such a big planet, right, in our solar system. And there are 6 lines that you may have a specific line for yourself, right? So that particular chart is a 0.4. So when I share this with you, all right, there are 6 lines for that particular area of our chart. You could have a 0.1, which is simplicity. That just means if you have a 0.1 in your personality Jupiter, your life, your business really needs to be simplified. If your business is overly complicated, unfortunately, you won't make a lot of money that way. So 0.1 is simplicity. And remember, everything starts with you. You may be drawn to certain people that their life is so simple, like, they eat breakfast a certain time, they do things a certain time or a certain way, and then after that, they're done, right? That's simplicity. 0.2 is recognition. Well, obviously, if we do something good, it could be recognition, could be you did something well at school and you got recognized for that, or at work and you got recognized for that, right? Recognition is 0.2. And if no one is recognizing your efforts and your skills, you got to make sure you have a way for you to recognize that you did a good job for that particular day, for that particular project. Okay. Now, 0.3 is celebration. In other words, when something amazing happened, you have to make sure you celebrate. Now, it doesn't have to be extravagant like a party. It could be like, for me, I would get like a nice sea salt jasmine green tea, right? No sugar. And I would just use that as a way to celebrate something. It could be I finished a project, or there was a landing page we were working on and it's finally done, or I promised myself I was going to do 3 Facebook Lives and it was done, then I could celebrate, right? So you have to put that in your schedule if celebration or point 3 is your personality Jupiter. Why? Because if you actually follow your own design, you're going to attract the money. If that means to you a sense of security, if that means to you that you feel good about yourself and other people start noticing what you're doing, so be it, right? All right, now the point 4, if you have a personality Jupiter, that's point 4, charity. What does that mean? Now, a lot of the good-hearted people I know, they tend to give away their time. They tend to give away their skills. Like they would be on some kind of a call, like a clarity call or a sales call, but then they are giving away all the goodies and the products that and the services that they usually already provide when it's paid. So charity begins at home, which means you have to give yourself something, as if you're giving charity to you, because you're if you forget yourself, unfortunately, you can't attract the money, right? You're going to keep on giving it away, and then you're forgetting that, hey, how about you? Did you give yourself that specific container for you to actually attract the money into your life or the wealth? It could be attract friends, attract the right employees, right? The right support for your team. So charity begins with you. All right. Now we go to point 5. It's power or leadership. I happen to have a point 5. Therefore, what is the opposite of someone in power? Then the opposite could be you're a victim or you're so codependent that you can't do anything for yourself, right? So when I go into the victim mode, unfortunately, money leaves my doorstep. So power or leadership is my prosperity key. And a lot of the people I know have that, but then they give away their power to their families. They give away their power to their work. They just give it all away and nothing's left for them. And then in the end, if you're bitter, you start to blame others, right? For the things that you wish you had, but you didn't. So it's a no-no for people with point 5 on their personality Jupiter to feel like a victim. So when you're feeling empty, it is time to recharge. It could be a nap. It could be a day at the beach, just sitting doing nothing. Or it could just be you're just not thinking and overthinking about everything. Okay, so power is also the same as leadership. And the last prosperity key is nature. Okay, in nature, we know that if we look outside, there's abundance everywhere, right? So if you're feeling like, oh my God, I don't have money in the bank or I don't have enough clients, I would rather have you go out in nature and appreciate the abundance around you. So think about counting the number of leaves in the trees, or perhaps counting the number of houses. It's nature, so it could be counting the birds, right? It could be really just appreciating that if you don't really cut nature, I mean, if you look at the weeds that are growing in your garden, if you don't do anything about it, it's going to keep on growing, right? It is super, super abundant. So that is the different prosperity keys or personality Jupiter in our human design. So I encourage you every single day, whatever that is for you, if you have trouble making money or keeping money, right? Why don't you really focus on your personality Jupiter, that prosperity key that we just discussed, depending on what's yours, and start really allowing yourself to implement those things, right? That would really work for you. And I encourage you to do this for the next 30 days. You know, when we form a habit, right? It takes about 30 days to form a habit. And if you don't start now, you're still going to give me the same excuses and the same complaint when we see each other 30 days later. So I encourage you to do the same thing over and over, right? Practicing your personality Jupiter or your prosperity key daily so that you can shine. All right. So I just want to give a shout out because I think Wendy is tuning in. She's on her lunch break. So thank you, Wendy, for tuning in. So now, if you have any questions or comments, I'm going to open up the floor to entertaining those questions. So if you can put your prosperity key, whatever that is for you, go ahead and write it down and share with us how you have allowed yourself to just be, right? And exercising that prosperity key. All right. So Wendy's giving us a whoop whoop. So all right, so let's ask the questions from the audience, and we would be happy to answer any questions about prosperity key. The one thing that comes to mind, I think, is a lot of people, depending on your family, your bloodline, right, your practices at home. If you have a certain prosperity key, but for example, your family, right, your mother, your children, they have different prosperity keys. And this is very prevalent, like even in my family. So, for example, my husband has charity as his prosperity key. Mine is power or leadership, right? So you can see that sometimes in a relationship that could cause a conflict because I'm thinking of having power and leadership, and he is thinking about give it away, give it away, give it away, right? So how do you make sure that even if you have different personality Jupiters, you still have a good, smooth relationship in the house, right? So once you understand people and who they are, which is normally we're all different, and you know how you've heard about opposites attract? Yes, and you just have to communicate, right? That understanding happens, and your ability to relate with one another increases when there's good communication. So instead of making them wrong because they're different from you, I suggest having an open dialogue and an open communication and understanding that their first go to, like my husband's, is first to just give away, right? That's just his thing because it's charity, right? That's what makes him richer. If you look at it, for those of you with charity, the more you give up, right? The more you give away, the more you exchange with society and with the world, the more blessed you're going to be, if that makes sense. So let me see what else is there. All right. So any other questions? Because sometimes this discrepancy, right, in the home, it's not a discrepancy. It's just more, we're all different human beings. And the more you understand the other person, why they do things the way they do, because it's in their chart, it's in their design. So the more I understood that, I don't have to make anyone wrong anymore. It's just more, oh, now I understand why they behave a certain way. Okay, awesome. All right. Any other questions that we have? For those of you watching, again, we thank you. So during these shows on Wednesdays, we give you a lot of money magnetism tips. So I'll give you before we say goodbye, because we end the show at 1 or a little bit before that. I remember myself when I was having these negative connotations, right, about receiving. But I wanted to share with you guys that money is a receiving issue. Okay, it is. It definitely is. So I'm a generator in human design, which means my aura, and everybody who is a generator, your aura is magnetic. So literally, you pull in who you are. So if you are very open and you're very giving, of course, you also attract people that are like that. That's just the way that works, right? Now, we're not born perfect. So we go through life with different things, different challenges. And then, of course, we figure out what that is. And the more you know your human design, the more you'll be able to understand other people as well, why they behave the way they do. Now, I'm not saying we're all born perfect because obviously we have the conditioning process that happened, right? Like because your family does it, that's why you do the same thing. I was reading a book and it even said, you know how during Christmas, like they cut off the ends of the ham, and then the mom was doing that, or the grandma was doing that, so the mom was doing that, and the daughter was doing that, and whatever we observe, we usually do that, right? So one time she was one of the younger sibling, the younger daughter said, "Why are you cutting the edges of the ham?" "I don't know, because my mom did it." And then, her mom did it too. So then she finally called the mother and said, "Why do you do that?" "Oh, because I have such a small pan that it doesn't fit. That's the reason why I'm cutting the ends of the ham." That was the only reason that the mom had. And then she was thinking there's a special reason why that's happening, but that was the only reason. So until you get to the heart of it, right? Like, why do you do what you do? Obviously, we have our own personality and we have our own unconscious stuff, the design side, right? The more you understand yourself, I can assure you that the more you'll understand why other people do the way they do things. And some of them, obviously, it's really their way of doing things. Some of them are very unconscious. They're just doing it because they saw it. That's what they observed. That's what they practice. So be gentle with yourself as you're practicing this prosperity key, because the more you know who you are, then when other people misunderstand you or don't respond to you a certain way that's favorable to you, know that it's either they have their own issue that they're dealing with or they have some conditioning that's happening in the background. And if you stay neutral and you're not triggered by other people's responses, that's when life comes to you with ease, grace, and flow. So I encourage you to actually be part of our event. We have so let's say you are going to transition yourself, right? You're an employee and you want to be an entrepreneur, but you don't have a clue. Like, I don't even know where to get started. I remember when I was working for someone as a physical therapist, right? When you are able to understand yourself, right? And you can really reflect that back to your ideal client because you already know who you are. And if you're a generator or manifesting generator, literally you pull it in like you're a magnet for the energy. So once you become super clear and focused on what you're meant to do, because the human design itself definitely would give you that, like who you are, what is your purpose, which is your incarnation cross, and the way you know it, right? And I'm going to share this with you. Human design body graph, the one that I shared with you about Einstein. This is an illustration of your energetic flow within your system. It's a blueprint for how you operate and interact with the world. So for those of you, it is super important that you have integrity to yourself. So if you have your own prosperity key, because we all do, and you have integrity to that, no one should really be questioning that, right? You got to honor you so that others will honor you. It's basically the same thing, right? So the more you know who you are, the more you can actually help the world around you. All right. So if you guys want to go to viviandeguzman.com/, transition to entrepreneurship, literally you can spend 2 3-hour days with us, with our team. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about human design there as well. Actually, in that event, I'm going to talk about your 5 money gates. So if you join us the first week of October, my team and I It's on Facebook group Wealthy Money Mindset, October 4 to 7. We're going to go share with you our talents when it comes to what is it that you're meant to do in this planet, right? You alone, you alone, and you can hire others if that's not your specialty. What kind of business are you going to do or to have? And what kind of marketing are you going to do in order for you to really connect with the souls of your ideal client? It is a soul-based journey, okay? Because if you don't know who you are, unfortunately, your clients won't recognize you either. So you got to know who you are at a soul level, very deep, right? Then you can do soul marketing and you can create the business that is based on your soul. Because if you don't know that, your clients are going to be very confused as to who you are and what you represent. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. And I hope you enjoyed this segment. And we will be seeing you soon on our Facebook group, Wealthy Money Mindset, for our free master classes, October 4 to 7. And thank you so much for tuning in today. Bye for now.